hello everybody. Nice to see you today. We're here today to do what's known as a conscious conversation, which was a term maybe not invented by this person in front of me here, but certainly used many times by her. And we are actually going to have a conscious conversation today. I'm having one today with Debbie Clement Large, a life and leadership coach, founder of the award-winning Why Follow the Herd. She uses traditional coaching and spiritual psychology. She works with individuals, entrepreneurs, and businesses to help them live in a wholehearted way. Live their lives in a wholehearted way. That's a phrase that I know she likes to use. So, Debbie, I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. It's a topic of interest to everybody because you're going to talk a bit about money.
I know it is. Yes, creating financial freedom.
Yeah. So specifically today, you're talking about how to create financial freedom. Now, I think most people who are going to be watching this this conversation, if you mention financial freedom, they will think you're just going to tell them how to get more money in the bank. But I don't think that's what you're going to say. So tell us.
No, you know me so well, Rory. No, I'm going to say, well, we do want to feel financially free, but that the feeling of financial freedom and money are two different things. Now, financial freedom is a mindset. And there is a lovely couple of stories that I'd like to share with you just to illustrate that. There was a program on Netflix that I saw, and it was, I can't remember the title, it was something to do with kindness. And it was a guy traveling around the world to different countries on a bike called, I think he called it Kindness. And he just lived on other people's generosity. And he would look for a bed for the night. He would look for food, for people to put fuel in his tank and his bike. And it was filmed across, and there were some beautiful stories that came out of that. But the whole purpose is that when he found people that he thought had a really big heart and were really doing extraordinary things, he gave them big gifts, which was lovely. And the one story that really I thought just said a lot about this was when he asked a guy for a bed for the night, and the guy said, "Look, I'm sorry." He says, "I don't have one, I'm homeless." He says, "But come with me." And he took him to his place where he was going to sleep, and he had like a couple of sleeping bags, and he gave him a sleeping bag. He gave him a couple of clothes. He gave him he shared his food with him, and he even gave him a tiny bit of money so that he could buy something. And the guy who was doing the journey was so touched by this, that for someone who had so little and really had nothing, was willing to share what he had with a stranger. He just gave him this enormous gift and helped him get into his own house again, and helped him with training to reestablish what he wanted to do as a career. And for me, that was showing he had a real abundance mindset. He wasn't wanting to cling on to what he had, but he was willing to share what he had. So for him, in his mind, he was feeling financially free at that point. And I thought that was wonderful.
That's a beautiful story. We often find, I think, that those with the least give the most. Brings me to mind of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning. But you got another story.
I have got another story, and it's right at the other end of the spectrum. Now, I don't know whether this is a true story. It's one that I've heard. It's probably just a moral tale. I don't know, but I think it really wonderfully illustrates the other side of what isn't financial freedom. So this is a story of two older people that have worked incredibly hard over their lives. They have saved and scrimped, and they've got a beautiful house, but they also have a ton of money. And on their property, they have a safe, and it's a big walk-in safe, and it contains all their assets, a lot of their money. They want to keep it safe. They're afraid of losing it. They're afraid that it's going to be stolen. So they just protect it, and it's, really strong, big safe. And one day in the neighbourhood, they hear that there's some people round burgling houses and robbing, and of course this couple get really frightened because they're scared of losing what they have. So this one night they go down into their safe just to make sure that it's not been broken into. And as they walk into it and check, and there's such a relief that all the money's there and everything's there, the door swings shut on them and they get trapped in their safe and they never walk out alive again. So
Wow.
what was really interesting in that story is they had all the money, but they were living in a poverty consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have the air, which I was talking about earlier on. So those are fantastic stories, and stories are such a great way of getting your message across. I think people will understand what you mean by the feeling of financial freedom now. But how do they get it? How do they get that feeling?
And it's a very simple process, but it's not always the most simplest to do. It takes some practice and it takes some work. And obviously, depending on our own situation and where we are, sometimes it can be easier than others. If we're feeling really scared and very fearful of where we are, we've got to be a bit more gentle with ourselves, and it's trusting this process. That's the big thing, is trust. So I'd like to describe it as if you were standing on one side of a riverbank and you're in your current situation on this riverbank. And as you look over the river, you see the other riverbank. And over there is all the things you want. That's your financial freedom. What financial freedom means for you, the experiences, the things, the ways of being over on the other riverbank. But you can't see a way to get from this side of the riverbank to the other side. And because you're on this side, all you see is the lack. I want what's over there, but I feel the lack of where I am. I feel the lack of what's in my bank account. I feel the lack of customers. I feel the lack of money flowing to me. I've got more flowing out than coming in. And we feel in that place. So what we start off by doing is looking at our language. Okay, so what are we saying to ourselves? Every time we say, I've got debt, it really means we're doubting. Every time I haven't got, we're seeing lack, we're seeing scarcity. So it's about getting our thinking from over to that other riverbank, living and feeling in your mind, a bit like a child does when they daydream and they see, I wonder what would happen if, and having that, all those resources. What does it feel like to be financially free? What does it feel like to feel abundance, irrespective of what's in my bank account? What does it feel like to have these experiences, to know that I'm going to get some money in and I feel safe to share it with other people? I'm getting some money in and I'm safe to have buy myself an experience or to do something with it. I don't have to hoard it. So these are financial freedom. So once you get your thinking really over into the other place, so it's speaking from the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say. And once you do that, the words are like girders, they're building the bridge across. Every time you think, I can do, I have got, I am going to let myself feel financially free. I am going to allow myself to feel abundant. No matter what is going on in the bank, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to speak from it. I'm going to know that this is going to be my truth. And then lastly, what you do is you use your wonderful imagination to span that bridge and to take you to that other riverbank. And to sit and visualize, even if it's just for 30 seconds or a couple of minutes a day, but to really soak yourself in that experience of feeling financially free.
Wow, that is a powerful method, and it fits well with the stories. And so just to recap, we got the two stories of the person who appeared financially poor and yet who gave so much because he had a feeling of financial freedom and wealth internally. And then the couple who apparently appeared financially rich, and yet inside they were so poor they had to be with their money, and that story shows how useless the money is if you don't have the essentials of life. And then you finished off with how to do it, how to build that bridge over towards financial freedom using the way you think and the way you talk to yourself every day, bit by bit, building that bridge. And that's a very practical thing that anybody can do. You can start with nothing and do that. So thank you very much to Debbie Clement Large for that conscious conversation. I have learned a lot. I hope you have too. And I look forward to having another conscious conversation at some time very soon.